Hello, my name is Calvin Bromley, and I have just completed a mini ethnography project. And the goal of the project was to study how naturalization is for first generation Hispanic immigrants, or more specifically, what cultural practices do they keep from their countries of origin, and which cultural practices do they decide to leave behind as they come to a new country and as they adapt and move into the public sector. For my methods, I went to a local Hispanic market where many of the patrons are recent immigrants or have immigrated, and I did interviews. The process of naturalization is a pretty long one, and even lifelong, arguably. And so I figured that in the short time frame that I had of only a few months, the best way to find out about this process was through doing interviews. And so that's what I did. I went to the Spanish market and made a small sign and stood up front and asked people in Spanish if they would give me a small interview asking about this process. And I yielded some interesting results. As far as naturalization, most people who come to the United States keep a lot of things from the cultures where they were born. Specifically in South America, there's a lot of people mentioned that they have more emphasis on a more close-knit sense of community, like neighborliness and friendliness, and that people here in the United States didn't seem to place as much emphasis on that, but that was something that they tried to maintain and that they wanted their children to maintain as well. Just kind of more of like a amity towards other people. And another thing that many tried to maintain was their language. As you can guess, when you move from a Spanish-speaking country to an English-speaking country, you might learn English. Not always though, but it could be advantageous. And that is what some people do. Some people learn English, but a surprising amount don't need to. For immigrants moving to the United States, especially in the Provo area, they don't particularly have to learn English if they don't need to. It's entirely possible to live and work in exclusively Spanish-speaking circles. You can get a job at a Spanish-speaking store and only speak Spanish, and you don't even need to learn English. And you can still provide for your family and have a good life. And I was able to meet multiple people who had done that for many years. Another thing that people wanted to maintain was food. Many people liked the taste of home, and even though it was a little bit more difficult to procure maybe ingredients for their foods, a majority of the people who participated in this study still made dishes from their countries of origin. And some people even made businesses out of selling those dishes. For example, some people who had an example of an electrician's license in Peru, when they moved to the US, their license was no longer accepted as sufficient, and so they had to find another way to make money, and so what they could do was sell food. And I met multiple people who had done that. They had started a business selling food, and that was how they provided for their family in this new country. And it was very interesting. Another common theme was morality. Um, many schools in South America are run by the Catholic Church, and because of that, they teach morals and reinforce them in schools. And that's not something that's done in the United States. And many first-generation immigrants kind of lamented that that was not the case. They liked having the morals reinforced at school that were taught at home. And we're kind of sad that their children were not going to be able to have that same level of reinforcement. But another aspect that many tried to maintain was the nuclear family. But this one was, as it's a little bit more controversial of a topic, so when I tried to get them to elaborate a little bit further, it was usually a little bit difficult, and I didn't get very much. But overall, over the course of the study, I found that there are many different paths that people can take when moving from South America to the Provo area. They can decide for themselves how much exposure they want to the native English-speaking culture, or they can stay in entirely Spanish-speaking circles and live out the rest of your life and never really have to adjust. But overall, it was very interesting, and more research is definitely required. My ethnography was tiny in comparison to, say, a professional one, but it was very enlightening, and it overall helped me to better understand the experiences of other people.